Fair enough. Okay, for those of you who don't know, the weed in question is Hydrilla verticillata. That's one of the candidate biocontrol agents, although they both look identical. And these are just some of the test plant species. So to give you a bit of background, Hydrella is a submerged aquatic macrophyte that forms dense mats in freshwater habitats. It's native to Asia and Australia, with localized populations in Europe and Central Africa. It's a very serious economic and environmental weed in the United States, and it was discovered in Dam by our weed scientist Leslie Henderson in 2006. There's high genetic diversity in the species and can be both monoecious and dioecious. South Africa has a Malaysian, Indonesian monoecious biotype, and because of the geographical variation in the species and genetic diversity, biotype matching was an important consideration for the biocontrol program. What this neighbor-joining analysis shows us, they compared, Madeira et al. Compared Hydrilla from Dam to 30 worldwide Hydrilla samples, and as you can see, as I mentioned, our Hydrilla comes out clusters with Indonesian and Malaysian Hydrilla, monoecious Hydrilla. So what about the flies that we've got as candidate agents? Hydrellia pakistanae was the first agent we got into quarantine that came from the United States. As you can see here, it originated on Indian dioecious Hydrilla, and also, well, what you can see from over there is that the US dioecious forms cluster very closely, are very similar to the Indian Hydrilla. So the states had a very good match according with Hydrellia pakistanae, but it doesn't look like it would have been the most suitable match for our Hydrilla. But we were fortunate to get another Hydrellia species from Singapore, very close to the region of origin. It was collected on monoecious Hydrilla, very close to the region of origin of our biotype. So, according to biotype matching, that we immediately thought that would be the more suitable candidate. So what do we know about the two species? They definitely are distinct species. I suspected this for a long time, but it was confirmed with some genetic studies done by a PhD student in Ireland. Her name is Rosie Mangan. And at the moment, samples are being looked at by specialists to either describe the Singapore Hydrellia or identify if it already has been described. Both species lay eggs singly or in clumps on emergent plant material. Both species will oviposit on other plant species, and the larvae are the selective life stage. The larvae are also the damaging life stage. They mine the leaves, passing through 3 instars and pupate at the leaf base or inside the leaf tissue. The life cycle is 2.5 to 4 weeks, depending on plant quality and temperature. And what we also know from is that the Singapore Hydrellia does perform better on the South African biotype. Some of you would probably be present at my talk 2 years ago in Bloemfontein. I did some quite detailed studies looking at comparing performance and fitness parameters of the two species on our Hydrilla, and then also comparing the performance of Hydrilla pakistanae to its performance on dioecious Hydrilla, it's on which it originated in the States. And what I concluded from that is that the Singapore Hydrilla is the superior agent for the South African Hydrilla. And I also knew that from initial testing, host specificity testing, that it didn't have a very different host range to the Singapore Hydrilla. So on the basis of this, my recommendation would have been to reject Hydrilla pakistanae and rather focus on the Singapore Hydrilla, which is what I've done for my host range testing. But which most of my talk, the results from most of my talk I'll be showing you is based on the Singapore Hydrilla. But because host specificity is obviously the most important and the basic criterion for a weed biological control agent, before culling the culture of Hydrilla pakistanae, making a final decision on that, I did some more host range tests comparing under the same conditions with the same plant species. We have compared the specificity, so I'll show you the results of those at the end of the talk, towards the end of the talk. Okay, so just to run through some of the I used to investigate the host ranges of the two flies. I did 2 types of no-choice tests. The reason why I did 2 is I wanted to definitely to do them in a controlled environment so that I could compare things like development time, but I quickly noticed that the flies seem to do better under natural life conditions, so I also ran trials simultaneously in the glass house. And those are the results that I'll be showing you today, as the results from the trials that were done in the glass house. For this I used 500 ml transparent plastic containers and with reverse osmosis water. I did between 10 and 40 replicates for each plant species, and with 10 eggs per rep, and I recorded the number of adults. Then for those species, plant species that supported complete larval development in the no-choice test, I moved on to pair-choice trials. For these I used slightly bigger containers in the glass house. Tests were always initiated with eggs oviposited on the test plants and not Hydrilla. I used 15 eggs per rep, and at the pre-pupal or pupal phase I separated the two plant species and recorded the number of adults, and I also looked at the damage to each plant species at the end of the trial. As you'll see when I show you the results from the pair choice trials were very clear cut, but for some plant species that did support a high proportion of larval development, I also wanted to do some further studies, and I did some host suitability trials. The first was a multiple generations trial. I started off with 300 eggs per replicate on the test plant and then 60 eggs per rep for Hydrilla. 3 reps for each plant species, and I collected the adults and obviously counted the adults of the first generation that emerged, and then transferred them onto fresh plants for oviposition, and this went on for 3 generations. Then I also looked at fecundity and longevity of females, and males and females for longevity on flies that were reared on the test plant or on Hydrilla. And for this I started off with 200 eggs per rep of the test plant, 50 for Hydrilla. When the adults emerged, they were sex paired and then held in containers containing Hydrilla to boost oviposition. Yeast hydrolysate was provided as a food source, and eggs were collected and recorded daily, and adult longevity was also recorded, but I'm not showing the results of those today. In all cases, Hydrilla, except for the fecundity trial, Hydrilla was treated as a test plant and not a control. And in most cases, test plants were field collected, if they could be, or bought from aquatic plant suppliers. And also, I mostly was able to collect enough plant material when they were field collected to initiate a trial straight away, but for some plant species, I cultivated them in the lab before. Okay, so this is just a tree of the families in general within the Southern African Lysantales, which is the order that the Hydrocharotaceae fall into. It's not drawn according to scale. It was given to me by Renee Glenn, which she put together for herself. She was doing her PhD on the phylogeny of the Lysantales. It's been very useful to me. Sorry. As you can see, Hydrilla is there in the Hydrocharotaceae with some native genera. For those of you who know your aquatic plants, you're probably wondering why I tested 2 exotic species. The reason for this is purely just to increase my number of plants to test in the Hydrocharotaceae, because we've got relatively few native species in South Africa. So for the Hydrocharotaceae, I've tested close to 90% of the species that occur in South Africa. The other important family of pondweeds was the Pakistanae. I've tested all of those species. They're very similar in terms of, they're also submerged aquatic macrophytes, so occur in similar habitats. And one of these species, Pakistanae crispus, supported larval development on tests done for Hydrilla pakistanae in the US. So I also focused on that. And all the other families, I've tested representatives of most of the other families, and also a couple of other species that share similar habitat to Hydrilla that fall outside the Lysantales. So this is just a quick summary of the no-choice trials. As you can see, a lot of the Hydrocharotaceae supported quite high oviposition, and even in the Pakistanae. 75, look at Hydrilla, 75% of the larvae tested completed development in the adult stage. Lagocyphon major, 13.5. Lagocyphon muscoides, quite high, 39%. Lagocyphon elisifolius, 37%. nothing from Lagroscyphum verticillifolius and Cordofanus have only recently located after looking for it for a very long time. So that trial is currently underway. And then yes, just also Nagus horrida, another hydrocharotaceae, did support a low level of larval development. And then this, the outlier protein-eating crispus, as it did with Hydrilla pakistani, supported some larval development. Then moving away to more distantly related families and those outside of the list of tailors, you can see there was absolutely no oviposition on these plant species and no development. Okay, so I'm going to look individually at the plant species that we did get some development. First is Lagroscyphum major. I did some stats, did an analysis using an ANOVA on the no-choice results, and as you can see, highly significant differences in the number of larvae that developed to the adult stage on Hydrilla compared to Lagroscyphum major. Then going on to the paired choice trial, 72% of the eggs tested developed to the adult stage on Hydrilla, and only one larva out of all of them tested, which equated to 0.07%, pupated on Lagroscyphum major. But I couldn't find any evidence of damage or larval mining, so my guess is that it probably transferred as pupation. Hydrilla was very heavily damaged and was probably searching for a suitable pupation site. Then Lagroscyphum muscoides, again there were highly significant differences in the proportion of larvae that survived. In the paired choice trial, this is very clear cut. 67% of the larvae tested developed on Hydrilla and completed their development on Hydrilla and then on Lagroscyphum muscoides. But for the species, I did some more detailed studies because it supported quite a high percentage of larval development. What you can see here is the initial eggs that were tested, 39% completed development, but after that there was a steady decline in the population, and compared to Hydrilla, in which 63% survived, and there's exponential increase, and by the third generation, an average of over 800 individuals from a starting point of 68 was what I got. And then in the fecundity trial, highly significant differences in the number of eggs produced by females that were reared on Hydrilla, just over 70 eggs per female, and only just over 10 eggs for females that were reared on Lagroscyphum muscoides. Then on to Lagroscyphum indicifolius, again highly significant differences shown in the stats tests, and in paired choice trials, 87% of the larvae developed on Hydrilla in the paired choice trial, and again only one larva was found on Lagroscyphum indicifolius, but again there was no larval damage or larval mining, so I presume that it transferred over onto in search of a suitable oviposition site. The multiple generations trial. Now this plant was actually quite strange because this is one of the plants that I cultivated in the lab. Grant Martin very kindly sent me some specimens that he collected in Botswana. And when I first got the plants going, I started with no choice trials, then ran paired choice trials and additional replicates. And by the time I got to setting up multiple generations trials and fecundity trials, I got absolutely no larval development. I set up the trial again, thinking something must have gone wrong. And again, I got no emergence. So I replanted, refertilized the sediment, presuming that perhaps plant quality played a role. And even after that, I still only got 8% emergence, and also battled to, I only managed to get 5 pairs of adults for the fecundity trial. So obviously, the quality of the host plant was important, probably nitrogen levels. But again, in this test, you can see a very rapid decline in the population compared to Hydrilla. And then in the fecundity trial, again, highly significant differences. The female fecundity was much higher for the flowers that were reared on Hydrilla, and compared to Lagroscyphum indicifolius, just over 30 eggs. So this is onto the comparison of host specificity between the Singapore Hydrilla and Hydrilla pakistani. I did test two other species in the hydrocharotaceae that neither of them supported development, so that was the same. And as you can see here, very similar host ranges. Lagroscyphum major, no significant differences between the two species. neither on Lagerocyphum or Scoides. The only one where I did get a difference was on Persimmon crispus. This was a species in the States one of the only species in the States that was tested in the States, although they don't have Lagerocyphum genus. That supported larval development, and Pakistani definitely seemed to do much better on this than Singapore Hydrilla. And then with Lagerocyphum lacifolius, again, very similar performance on the species, no significant differences there. So what were my conclusions from the studies? Hydrilla species is a Legophagus within the family Hydrocarataceae with a strong preference for its host plant. And host suitability trials suggested that the species would have very limited potential to establish permanent populations on native Hydrocarataceae. And on the basis of that, would be safe for release as a biocontrol agent in South Africa for Hydrilla verticillata. However, although I do plan to apply for permission to release, my recommendation is that the status of Hydrilla at this time, if permission is granted to release, needs to be reassessed. And if the status is the same as it is now, in which Hydrilla seems to be confined to Pangoliput Dam, and even in that system, populations fluctuate quite a lot. It dies back almost seasonally. My recommendation would be to shelve this agent for future use if necessary. But if Hydrilla does continue, it does spread and become more of a problem, we've got this agent available. And then my other conclusion was that I found minor differences in non-target host use between Singapore Hydrilla and Hydrilla pakistani, providing further support for the decision to reject Hydrilla pakistani as a biocontrol agent and rather focus on the Singapore Hydrilla, which is the better match according to biotype matching and previous studies that I've done. Lastly, I'd just like to thank KZN DAEA Invasive Alien Species Program and Working Boards for funding. Matt Purcell and Michael Brodowitz, they provided the starter cultures of the flies, and then all the other people below who either directly or indirectly assisted in locating and collecting test plants.
Thanks very much, Angela. Does anyone have any questions for her?
From what I was understanding, so have the Americans done any field surveys to see if pakistanae has affected any other plants other than Hydrilla?
No, not that I know of. No,
but it sounds like there's less of a risk there given the native composition in any case. Is that right?
Well, yeah, they don't have the Lagerocyphum, which is endemic to Africa. Yeah, but yeah, as far as I know, they haven't done any field experience studies there.
Thanks very much, Angela. I do some work at Pangoliput. Other than cutting down on the admin, I don't fully understand why you wouldn't apply for permission to release it based on what you've told us today. Oh no, sorry, I will apply for permission to release, but I've been to Hydrilla twice to Pongola in the last couple of months, and there's absolutely no Hydrilla. And as far as we know, Pongola is the only site where it still is. So there are actually two reasons for that decision. For that recommendation. I mean, if the Hydrilla is not there, or if it's sort of dying back periodically, which I've been going there 4 times a year at least for the last 6 years, and it does seem to die back. There's also a exotic moth it's called Parapines dominitalis. Hydrilla is one of its host plants in the native range, it's also native to Asia. And with that species present, and to me it does quite a lot of damage. I know everyone doesn't agree with me, but there's extensive defoliation often, and for a classical biocontrol agent, it would jump up and down if we saw that kind of damage. But because it's a defoliator, it strips the stems of the leaves, and under those conditions, if that moth was prevalent and doing so much damage, the flower probably wouldn't establish anyway because it's a leaf miner.
So, yeah, as long as Hydrilla is only in Pongola Dam, I don't think we need it or should release it. But that situation might change, you know. That's why I say it could probably take a year or more to get permission to release, and I think we should reassess the situation at that time and make a decision accordingly.
Yeah, one of the things that happens at Pongola is the fluctuation in water levels, and that it's
Yeah.
quite a lot of water out recently, and that might have had an impact.
Yeah, that's definitely had an impact, and also water quality. The water becomes very turbid with high rains in the catchment, and the plants, you know, the sediment settles on the leaves and they don't seem to do well, and also low light conditions as well for a submerged aquatic. So it's good.